That's looking very squirrel-like. I am proud of it.
Yeah. You did really good blending on the tail.
These, I have my collection of Copics. I don't play with them nearly as much as I should because they're great. Let's see, is that really the color I want? Yeah, I think so. Is little seed a slightly different hue? I love color. I don't play with color nearly enough. Jeff, I'd ask how goes quarter, but how goes setting up?
That's all right. I'm taking a video game break here.
What game?
Mario Kart.
Ooh, I was expecting Elden Ring.
The new tracks. Oh no, Elden Ring's on my computer at home, and I'm not bringing that thing anywhere with me.
That's smart, actually.
My computer is as big as my suitcase.
I don't know about the new tracks.
Yeah, so Nintendo's releasing like 40-something new tracks for Mario Kart.
Yeah, like over the next 2 years or something, and they're all I guess legacy tracks. So they're all from
they're all
previous
remastered
games.
versions of tracks from previous installments. Yeah,
But right now there's 8 new tracks, and I guess this is their answer to: is there going to be Mario Kart 9 on the Switch? And the answer is no. It's just going to be every Mario Kart
expand the heck out of 8
in the one game, which it
So-
already has like twice as many tracks as any other Mario Kart. So now it's going to have even more.
So you can fall off Rainbow Road all over again from scratch.
Well,
If it
perhaps
shows
have
up.
every iteration of Rainbow Road. You can do if you want your friends to hate you, you can play nothing but Rainbow Road as a Grand Prix.
Yeah, I think there's already 4 of them.
You could do 4 Rainbow Roads.
It's already like 3 versions.
Amazing. I only really got
completely
into
different Rainbow Roads.
the only Mario Kart I ever actually got into was the DS one.
I just raced the DS track. Yeah, I was really into that one. That was the first one. That was the first one online, I think. Which is weird to think about.
It's just the time that my friends were playing it. But yeah, I don't have that strong of an affinity to Mario Kart.
I like it. I think it's I don't know, Mario Kart 8. Just, I don't know, is kind of like easily my favorite version of it too. It has all has everything from every last game basically.
It's basically all of Mario Kart. Everyone's here.
Yeah, it'd be nice if
Everyone's
even it has Link in it. Like
Yeah,
everyone is here.
It's a refined enough Mario Kart that they don't really need to make another one for a while, so they're not.
Yeah. It
You know-
makes a lot of sense that they wouldn't.
It makes me realize that everyone is here is what everyone wants to do. Obviously, the biggest, grandest, most profitable version of this was the Marvel Thanos big fight, right? But we also have Ready Player One and Space Jam 2 saying, "Hey, let's have a scene that is every property we own. Everyone's here."
Funko Pop's the movie.
Funko Pop's the movie. I'm playing Elden Ring. I'll be brief on this one. It's basically everyone's here for FromSoft. I get to a boss and I look at him and say, "You're this specific boss from this specific game." I get to another boss and say, "Oh, you're this specific boss from this specific game, except you're on fire." And they have original bosses.
You're the same boss from this game, but your name is spelled different.
Yes. Everything looks new, but as soon as you see them move and fight, you're like, "I know you."
Okay.
I know you.
What you did last summer.
Yeah. And so I mean, like, it's like this is the thing that Kyle hates, but I love because it's everyone is here.
I guess
so
a lot of people probably don't mind, or I don't know. In my case, I don't mind it because I played Dark Souls 3 for 5 minutes and that's it.
if you guys like the most important one would be Ornstein and Smough. I think that's the most important like FromSoft Dark Souls fight is those two boys.
They're the skin guys.
Yeah, the big tall lightning guy with the spear and the big fat guy with the heavy hammer.
I mean, I think they're in Elden Ring and they're the skin guys.
I don't know the skin guys, but I do know that I fought a guy that is a big fat guy with a super huge hammer and Smough's moveset, but he's on fire and has additional fire moves. And I was like, you're just Fire Smough. You're just Fire Smough. And I didn't hate it at all. I loved it. And he wasn't even a major boss. He was a super minor boss. He was just like this dude off in a castle way over here and like, hey, here's Smough. I was like, all right, that's fine. But rolling it back though, like everyone wants to do Everyone is Here. Like Smash Brothers Ultimate. Everyone is here.
Yeah.
Because now computers can do it. Yeah, go ahead.
I think I don't want to do that. Like, if I ever had the opportunity to have like multiple properties, I would actually kind of want to keep them separate because I don't like crossovers really.
All right.
Unless they're
okay.
like non-canon crossovers.
Kimmy, this is incredibly critical for you to tell me right now. Because
What?
I have been learning how to make multiplayer games, specifically multiplayer card games. And one of the ideas I wanted to do with this new and exciting knowledge is create a collectible multiplayer card game that we all contribute to, and it becomes the crossover game that has all of our comic book characters in it. And I've got a game design in mind.
Don't hate the idea.
I know, right? It's all right. Good night,
Okay,
Jeff.
well,
Jeff had to pop out.
okay.
But it's a lot of work, but it's within scope. It's within reason that I can learn how to do this. And that would be kind of dope, though.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to that because there are some exceptions. So the type of crossovers I don't like are like Avengers, where it just becomes the new norm, where it basically changes the canon for the universe. Where, okay, you can't just have the Hulk without also having Daredevil and Spider-Man and Thor and Iron Man. And so the reason it bugs me is because like I feel like you'll have a certain hero or or speaking more broadly, you'll have a certain property that has a very distinct tone where it's like, okay, this is the tone of the world and these are the themes, and then you'll just like bring somebody else in, and I feel like it kind of introduces weird inconsistencies sometimes with like
Solve that
the
for
world
Marvel
building.
by just having the tone always be the same.
So, I have some thoughts on that, but wrap up, Kimmy. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, but if it's like a one-off thing, like I actually do like Smash Brothers because that's kind of like, oh, haha, this is like an impossible scenario kind of thing of like, oh, I bought all the toys and now I'm gonna make them fight.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a fun juxtaposition to see like, Mario just staring down Minecraft Steve of all things.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can dig that,
Yeah, same.
So I do like those types of games. When it comes to my world, like I guess it depends on like what the character would need to do in the crossover, because like I would have to choose someone very like specifically from my roster, in order to like represent the comic correctly or serve whatever role they need to serve in the thing.
I've got some thoughts. I'll break down like what I've got like game plan wise, but I want to talk about Marvel really quick because like I think the reason why it was financially successful is because they did, like, I think honestly Alan nailed it, which is that they had a primary flavor of the theme, and everything was a variation on that flavor. And so when they brought it all together, it was fine. And they said, hey, this is a new thing, so it doesn't matter what's in the comic books. In fact, comic books had already established there are multiple continuities. The tried and true one is Marvel Universe 626. But like they actually and say, here's this other storyline with these other characters. This is Marvel 4445, whatever. And they actually number them and identify them. So, and then characters jump universes to do a crossover. Oh, here's this guy from this universe jumped over to this one from this universe. And they actually keep track of all that shit. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe was just one of those. And they established that. And then when Spider-Man had all the Spider-Mans and the Spider-Man, that was already fine too. In fact, Spider-Man's probably the worst of it because like they leaned into the multiple universes as hard as fucking possible. Was Stitch from Lilo and Stitch a reference to Marvel Experiment 626? Actually, both of those are a reference to the actual biblical translation of the number of the beast 666, which was, as I read it once, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, incorrectly translated, and the number of the beast was actually 626.
Oh, really?
That's
don't
hilarious. Know. It's like I've read this once.
For every teenager whose screen name ends in 999.
Citation required. Yeah, so I think the blandness of the I really love the cinematic universe, specifically from Iron Man to Thanos. That was a wild ride, and I really enjoyed that they had a long form plan and stuck to it. And saying that, I absolutely respect what Alan thinks of it. And let me get this correct: is that those all were the same movie, just a little bit different each time.
But most of them, mostly, my dislike of the MCU more has to do with like how it impacted movies in general and how we make them and how we market them.
That is my next point.
I think that was a net negative.
That is my next point because I think the Marvel long form plan was excellent. And I don't fault anyone for not enjoying it, but I think their ability to create a long-form narrative across several movies in Hollywood is an admirable accomplishment. And other people looked at that and said, oh, I wanna, but they didn't want to put in the work, which is exactly what everyone said when they saw Lord of the Rings, and they said, oh, I wanna, but they didn't want to put in the work. And so you get these major cinema accomplishments, and then everybody says, I want to do that too, and it turns out bad.
Yeah, no, there was some irony in that I was seeing with comic book history repeating itself, because, like, that was part of why, like, the grimdark 90s were so infamous, is because a lot of it spiraled out of Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen, and don't get me wrong, those works very much have their issues, but they're important to comics history.
I'd agree with that statement.
And yeah, and a lot of other writers and artists saw that and went, I want to do that, but also didn't want to put in the work, and then looked at it when we're just like, oh, okay, I see. If I just, like, make everything violent and fill it with swears, we're good. Okay, cool.
Formula, got it. Which I think is also exactly what happens with, say, pop music. I am actually a huge fan of hip-hop and rap, in the sense of this is poetry about how tough life is in this environment often. Well, it's poetry to a beat at the basis form.
We've not done a hip-hop exchange at some point.
Yes. And because of the cultural association, it tends to come from urban themes. Go ahead.
Hip-hop tracks at each other.
Say what? Could you say that again, please? Alan?
Yeah, I just said you and I need to have a day where we just fling hip-hop tracks at each other.
Yes, good. Yes, definitely we should do that. Yeah, so I love hip-hop. I love the poetry. I love the source of that poetry, coming from a particular culture. And it's beautiful. I adore it. I hate pop rap because it just does that. It does what it thinks it saw, and it takes the formula and cranks out lots of it.
That makes sense.
So awful. And I think pop music tends to be that anyway, where you see the popular thing or you see the artistic original thing and say, I see the formula for that, let me crank it out. And cinema does it, video games do it. It's prevalent to see something unique and then start cranking it out.
Yeah, I was actually what was I talking about? I was talking today about that with some friends on Discord, because I was saying that I've recently been watching older animes, sort of trying to trace the almost genealogy of my inspirations, going back in time to be like, oh, okay, this clearly inspired this other thing that I watched. And sadly enough, the originals are always better than the things that they inspire. They're usually better, because the problem is that the things that get inspired by them are usually trying really hard to mimic something, and I can see it after I see both of them, where it's like, I see this guy watched Evangelion and he thought, okay, mechas, bad dads, and weird mind-blowing shit that you don't explain. Got it. And he just kind of ran with those things, and it's like, and Ray Anami XPs, and what was the other one? And just unemotive girls as love interests kind of thing. And the thing is, it tends to... When it tends to work is when the creator tends to make it their own and actually try to tell their own story with it instead of mimicking, because I think that's when people start actually thinking about what would work instead of what worked for someone else. You know?
When you're using building blocks of another narrative to write a narrative, that's fine. When you're using the formula to crank out IPs, fuck off. Yes, Alan?
I think part of the key to that also is exposing yourself to multiple kinds of media and multiple kinds of stories. Because building off of what Kimmy said, that infamous bit from Hayao Miyazaki that gets likes to get tossed around out of context. His anime is a mistake; it's nothing but trash. That was from a larger point he had to make about how a lot of modern anime under his disapproving gaze is made by people whose sole content absorption has been more anime, and that's going to generally lead you down a path where you are just kind of formulaizing if you're not also reading some comics or taking in some plays or being like, oh, this is a unique way to approach a thing.
That's actually a really interesting point. Because I will say that if I try to think about my media diversity in terms of mediums, it's so I've done anime, but I do different types of anime. I really try not to pigeonhole myself too hard in just one type. But I actually do try to find storytelling elements in games. I do watch movies sometimes. I'm really picky about movies. I watch movies. I watch some TV series. I read books. I actually read paper books in my hand sometimes. And those
comics.
Actually tend... The paper books actually do tend to I also listen to audiobooks. I did do that once. They actually tend to do the most for me, actually, because I'll specifically try to read fantasy-ish books that are operating in the same zone as me, the same type of premises, same types of problems, and it really gives me good models for how to solve certain problems that I have in my story. where
Yeah,
it's
no, you're
like,
able to look and go like, okay, how did this author approach this thing?
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's pretty good. And I actually, yeah, I like taking from fantasy novels a lot for my fantasy comic because, yeah, weirdly enough, I actually have kind of mixed feelings about fantasy comics, which is weird because I'm making one, right? Um, it's like I think my problem with it is that it there's so many of them that are based off of D&D,
Yep.
and they kind of operate on this sort of baseline assumption that you know how everything works in D&D, and so they don't have to explain anything to you. And that's fine, I guess you don't have to explain things, but it really takes away all of the wonder for the world because
Yes.
it's just a standard D&D world.
Uh,
And so
I'll tell you a similar trap that I've run into is like I've seen that, and I read a lot of indie comics, and that definitely does happen. One that's kind of unfortunate that I keep seeing happening is that, but for the furry community,
Oh,
where
yeah.
I will absolutely give a furry comic its fair shot.
Mhm.
Some of them are quite lovely, but a lot of them fall into exactly what you just described, which is like, well, okay, you all know what furries are, right? And okay, let's go. And these community tropes, I will call them, where it's just like they kind of take certain tropes for granted, and in doing so make a completely inaccessible narrative.
Oh. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if I've read enough furry comics.
Meanwhile, I'm
that,
over here with
fuck,
Jack
wrong
and
layer.
Opal, like, okay, let me explain to you how other animals co-evolved with humans.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. No, it's just another example of what you were describing, where
Yeah.
fantasy is equally capable of well, okay, you all know how fantasy works, right? Okay, good, let's move on.
Yeah,
And you know, there's something to that, because what you gain from that is ideally you could gain, okay, there's a bunch of shit I don't need to explain, let's go. And you can fast forward. You know, I'm speaking charitably, but there's an opportunity to be in this world where you can just fast forward to a bunch of stuff and not have to explain it. But go ahead.
And I get that, and I think that could work really well, but I think one thing that creators might need to do in that situation is sort of sit down and ask, like, okay, so what is the story exactly? Because I almost feel like sometimes you end up stripping away a lot of things that make fantasy compelling by just saying that it's boilerplate. Because for me, what makes fantasy compelling is like the little details that the author adds in. Like, so
I too am a bit of a world building snob.
I know. I'm
Do
sorry
love me some world building.
I'm gonna reveal my huge snobbiness.
Yeah.
So,
you and me both. That's fine.
I was reading the comic the other day, and somebody's like shopping for groceries at their very standard fantasy market, and they said, "Now we just need potatoes." And they're like, "Ah, yes, potato. Potatoes are so great." And I'm like, but if this world is completely separate from Earth, then why did they have standard, like, russet potatoes? Like, why don't they have different potatoes? They could have purple
Turtle
potatoes.
across timelines.
I just kind of think this would have been a cool opportunity. I mean, like I said, this is me being very particular, but it's like I like it when you can say, "Hey, guess what? They eat a weird plant." You know?
Yeah, no, like show us your local things, even if it's just like, oh, this is basically a potato, but it's, you know, sky blue.
Yeah. Like,
Which
I
exists.
loved it.
Okay, well,
I
learned
loved
something
it.
new today.
Well, there are blue potatoes. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
I loved it in Disney's Atlantis when they're all eating dinner, and there's just this small segment where Milo is trying to use their very bizarre, overly bizarre, ridiculous cutlery, which is a thimble that goes on his finger and his thumb and is connected by a loose wire that's kind of like loopy, and then he has like a stick and he's like trying to like put the stick on the food to put the food into this like hammock between the thimbles to bring the food to his mouth. And I love it because it's like the 3 seashells, right?
I knew
Where
it! I
it's-
knew it! I knew we were going there. Yes, the 3 seashells is,
It's
is
like-
the it's the meanest of them all.
Yes, yeah, because it's like this is over the top absurd, but you can almost imagine how it would work. And you're just like, somehow these people have reached this point, right? And so it almost feels like this really kind of nicely blended in nod to the readers, like, aha, here's your fantasy
Yeah, don't worry
bullshit
about
that
it.
we know you came here for. Like, ha ha ha.
So
Yeah,
much of the
so-
comedy in Atlantis is just from Milo trying to be the
Good night,
politest
Abner Doodle.
motherfucker alive.
Oh yeah. So yeah, and like I admit I'm not always the best at this myself, but like I do kind of like relish in like thinking about details like, okay, you know, how often do these people use glass for their windows? Does it depend on when the building was constructed? You know, what type of you know, construction materials are they
yeah.
using? And it's just all these little like things that I like to kind of think about, because when you do grab boilerplate, like I just kind of go, okay, I get it. The world is a very familiar world, and it almost just kind of feels like it might as well be taking place in modern times. I mean, it gives it a different flavor. I'll give it that. It's definitely a different flavor than modern times. But yeah, I do kind of like the little eccentricities that set it apart.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to decide whether like my not English language has a word that is akin to fossil.
Oh, yeah.
It does. It does. It's fine. It does. And someone's gonna say, "What is a fossil?" Because some people don't know what that is, and they're gonna answer, "Oh, really? Old bones, I think."
Oh, so you are going to have fossils in your world.
Yes. So there are well, I needed to make sure fossils existed, which they do, and certain people would know what a fossil is, and certain people would not. So so it's a thing where it's like one person can casually use the word, another person can say, "I don't know that word," and a third person can kind of know the word. It's like, I think it just means really old bones, which would
okay.
solve the
Sounds
problem
good.
just fine. But the main question was, I know a lot about how my world works, and I needed to make sure that fossils existed. Check out my fucking squirrel. Look at this boy.